Today I'm going to install Arch Linux on a UEFI system. I'm going to be using VirtualBox to do this just because it's easier to record the whole installation and setup on a virtual machine. So I'm going to be using VirtualBox for that. And I'll show you how I'm going to set up this virtual machine just in case you all want to try this out on a virtual machine or actually installing Arch Linux on a physical machine. So we'll go ahead and create the virtual machine together. So I got VirtualBox already opened up, and I'm actually going to just click on the new button. And I'm going to call this Arch Linux UEFI install. Like that. Memory, I'm going to do more than a gig, so we'll do a 2048, which is 2 gigabytes of RAM. And we'll create a new hard disk. VDI is fine. Hard drive space, let's give it, this is just a test machine, so I'm going to give it 60 gigabytes. I don't need any more than that. Go ahead and click on create. And there's going to be a few more settings that we're going to want to do on our VirtualBox. I'm actually going to right click in here and click on settings. And then I'm going to click on system. And since this is going to be a UEFI system, I'm going to enable that in the VM settings. And then we're going to click on processor. I'm going to give it 2 CPUs. And then display, our video memory is only 16 megabytes. I'll just max that out because I can on this machine. Underneath storage, I need to attach my Arch Linux install ISO. And other than that, I should be good to go. So I'm going to click on OK. And then I'm going to click on Start. And I'm going to set the boot image to Arch Linux. Click on Start. And here is the Arch Linux install menu. So you're going to want to choose the first option, which is the Arch Linux install medium. Now, what I've noticed in the past, and this may not be something that is in the future, but typically when you get the Arch Linux graphical background wallpaper immediately when you start your Arch Linux install off the ISO image, you get the Arch Linux like background image. Typically, you're probably not on a UEFI system. If you just get this black text like this with these 4 options and it says UEFI, that means, yeah, your system's probably configured for UEFI. So I'm going to click enter here. And then we'll wait for the Linux kernel and all the other drivers to load. And basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be following the archlinux.org installation wiki page. So those are the steps I'm going to be following. Anyone can do this. I'm showing you all how easy this is to install. I'm also going to be providing a link in the video description to my GitHub site that's got all the steps I used during this video, so you can follow along on that as well. All right, now we're ready to get started. So I'm already aware that I'm in a UEFI system because I configured the virtual machine for that. I could tell based on when the machine was starting up that I was in a UEFI system. One of the first things that Arch Linux will have you do, just to confirm that you are in fact in a UEFI system, is it'll have you list your directory to /sys/firmware/EFI/EFI vars. And basically they say if you get some output, you're in a UEFI system. So since I'm following the Arch wiki, I'm going to run the command. So it's ls/sys/firmware/EFI/EFI vars. There's my output. So nothing further to do there. The next thing, well, I'm going to clear the screen. You're going to need an internet connection to set up Arch Linux. My virtual machine is already on a network, so I shouldn't have anything additional that I need to do. So I'm just going to test my connection. I'm going to type in ping archlinux.org 5 times, and I'm getting a response back. So my network is good to go. You may have to do additional steps. You might have to, if you're using static IPs, you might have to put in your IP address. If you're using wireless, there's another command that you can use. It's IWCTL. And then there's a help menu that you can use to, list your networks, list your wireless devices, and connect to your wireless network. So there's more information on this on the Arch Linux website. So if you are setting up Arch Linux using Wi-Fi, go ahead and follow their recommendations there. Another command when setting up your network is IP-link. So IP-link will show you what network connections or what network devices are attached to your machine. So that's helpful as well. But typically, if you have an Ethernet cable physically plugged into your machine and you're getting, a dynamic IP address through DHCP, pretty much you'll be good to go there. Okay, so the next step that we want to do is we want to enable our network time protocol. Before I do that, we'll do time, date, CTL, status. So this has my local time, got UTC time, it's got our time zone, but there's this thing called system clock synchronize that's set to no. What we're going to do is we're going to enable that, because that'll make sure our minutes and seconds are exact. And we'll set our time zone later on during this install, so we won't worry about that right now. So what we'll do is we'll do basically the same command, time, date, CTL, but then we'll do set-NTP for network time protocol, and we're going to set that to true. So if I up arrow, go back to status, you will see that the system clock synchronized is now set to yes. Another thing that you might want to do is update your mirror list. Arch Linux is going to install all of its packages over the internet, and there's this file that's stored on the system here, and that's going to contain all the servers that it can install packages from. And Arch Linux actually keeps kind of this repository of all the different mirrors, and you can actually search for additional mirrors. If you go to archlinux.org/mirror list, you'll be able to find, a mirror that's maybe closer to you or is in the same country as you, that type of stuff. So where this is stored at, I'm actually going to do vim. You can use nano if you want, but vim etsy hackman.d/mirror list. And here's all the mirrors that are configured for the system. Now, if you want, I'm using J to go down. It's HJKL to navigate in vim. I to insert. And let's say I want to insert another mirror in here. So I'm going to do server equals, and make sure you're typing in the URL correctly, because it's going to do you no good if the URL doesn't exist. I'm going to do mir.arizona.edu/archlinux/OS/$arch. Double check to make sure there is no typos. I have a typo in here. It's not repro, it's repo. Then I'm going to press escape to exit out of insert mode and get back to normal mode. I'm going to do colon, W for write, Q for quit. My mirror list has been updated. Now I don't remove mirrors from this file, 'cause it's more of a fail safe. So if the top mirrors can't be found, at least I have the bottom mirrors, so the installation can still continue. That makes sense. I'm going to clear out the screen once again, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an fdisk /L, which is going to list my hard drives. Now it's pretty obvious what hard drive that I want to use here, because it says VBox hard disk. We all know that I'm on VirtualBox right now. And then we set the size of my VirtualBox to be about, it was right around 60 gigabytes of space, and this one's 60.52. So the /dev/SDA device is going to be the device that I want to use. It might be slightly different on your machine, but just remember the location of that device for whichever one you want to put Arch Linux on. Okay, I'm going to actually use cfdisk to do my partitioning. The Arch Linux installation guide, I believe they have you using a completely different tool. It's through fdisk, so they're having you do an fdisk space, then you'll type in the device name there. I use cfdisk. That's all you need to type in, and then it wants you to select the label type. Because we're using UEFI, we're going to do the GPT. And you kind of get this nice interface to set up your partitions, and that's why I like to use cfdisk. Your system might have existing partitions already, so you can go ahead and wipe those out if you want. Just be careful if you wipe out your partitions, because it's going to be very difficult to get your data back if you did that unintentionally. So mine's set as free space, so I can start creating my partitions. There's going to be 3 partitions I'm going to create. Partition number 1 is going to be for our EFI system. Partition number 2 is going to be for our swap. And the 3rd partition is going to be for our Linux install. So I'm going to go ahead and click on New. And this one only needs to be 300 megabytes. So I'm going to do 300 M. So /dev/SDA1 is going to be for our EFI system. I'm actually going to go in here and change the type, and EFI is going to be at the very top. Second partition is going to be for Linux swap. I'm going to do 4 gigabytes for my Linux swap. I'm on a virtual machine. So use whatever size you want to use on your machine. And then we need to change the type of file system here. Change that to Linux swap. Free space, click on New. I'm going to use the remaining size for this partition. And then the type is already correct because it's set to Linux file system. So again, SDA1 is going to be for EFI. SDA2 is going to be for our swap. SDA3 is where we're going to put our Arch install at. Once we're happy with this configuration, we're going to go over here to write, and we're going to type in, yes, I want to write those partition tables. Once that's done, we can now quit from cfdisk. I'm going to clear the screen. Then I'm going to type in fdisk /L. So under /dev/SDA, I have my 3 partitions. Next we're going to do is we're going to create our file systems, and we're going to mount our install as well. So mkfs.bat /F32 /dev/SDA1. So we're going to make this file system be FAT32 for /dev/SDA1 because that's the requirement for a UEFI partition. Make sure that F is capitalized. If you do a lowercase f, it's not going to work. That's good. So we'll do our SDA2 now, which was the Linux swap. So I'm going to do mk swap, stands for make swap /dev/SDA2. That's good. And we need to turn swap on. So we'll do swap on /dev/SDA2. I have a typo in there. Not sev, it's dev. Okay, we're good there. Now we're going to make our file system. We'll do an ext4 file system for /dev/SDA3. Then we're going to mount our file system. So it's mount /dev/SDA3 /MNT for mount. All right, so now we're ready to install our Arch Linux packages. So to do this, we're going to use packstrap /i, and we're going to install it into where we mounted our file system. And we're going to install all the base Linux kernel, Linux -firmware. And I'm also going to install sudo. We can do super user things with our user accounts. And then we have access to nano and vim now, but once our system restarts, we won't. So I recommend if you're a nano user that you type in, nano. You can do vim if you're a vim user. I'll do both during this video. And then I'm also going to actually do git as well. You don't have to do git, but I like to clone my dot files that are stored on my git site or git repo. So I like to install git as well. All of that looks good. Press enter. Now it's just going to let us know the packages that we're going to be installing. I'm just going to, the default total download size is about 400 megabytes. Once all those packages are installed, there's 125 dependencies that it's going to be installing. Our total install will be about 1.4 gigabytes. I'm cool with that, so I'm going to hit Y for yes. Let's do the install. And this might take some time depending on how many packages you have chosen and what your internet connection speed is and how close those mirrors are to your location. Okay, our install was done, so there's a few more things that we need to do. We need to generate our file system table. So to do that, it's gen fs tab generate file system table -U -P space -MNT for mount etc fs tab for file system table. Typo in there, so there we go. That's done. Now we're going to move over from our install into the Arch Linux system that we just installed. And to do that, there's a special command to do this, and it's called arch-chroot. And set that to mount. Now that we ran arch-chroot, a few more things we need to do. So we're going to do our time zones, sync our hardware clock, set our host name, set a couple host file things, set our root password, enable a network manager, and we have to install grub, which is going to be our boot manager. So we're probably about halfway done so far. So let's set our time zone. Before we set our time zone, we need to know what available time zones there are to choose from. The easy way to do this is to type in time date ctl space list time zones. Press J to go down, so it's going to show you all the country names in here. So I'm in America, and I'm in Central Time, so I'm going to end up choosing Chicago. Where's Chicago at? I got to go up even further. There's Chicago. There's one in here for Detroit and Denver. I think Los Angeles is in here if you're on your Pacific time. So if you found what you're looking for, just press Q to quit and you're back at the main screen. So time date CTL space set dash time zone space going to be country and city. I'm going to do America / Chicago. So now if I do time date CTL status, you can validate that your time zone is in fact set to what you set it to. So mine says America / Chicago. So that's good there. We're going to update our hardware clock. So that's HW clock space dash dash SYS to hardware clock. All right. That looks good. Clear the screen. Now we're going to set up our host name. So to do this, we'll do echo, and we're going to choose our host name. I'm going to call this Zeus. And basically, so we're gonna echo Zeus into Etsy / hostname. Now, if I was to do vim space dash Etsy / hostname, you'll see that Zeus is in the file. So that's how you can validate that the command executed correctly. So :Q to quit. Next, we need to update our host file. So we'll do vim /Etsy / hosts. And we're just going to set this how Arch has it on their website. You don't want to use the hashtags because those are comments. Basically, we're just going to do the 127.0.0.1. I'm going to tab, do localhost. And then we'll do for our IP6 address, set that the localhost. And then we'll do 127.0.1.1. And then we're going to do whatever you use for the host name. In my case, I did Zeus.local domain. And then space dash host name. Press escape to get out of insert mode. I'm going to do :W Q to quit and save. And that step is done as well. Now I'm going to go in here and set the root password. I'm going to do pass WD. It's going to prompt me to set up my password. Password was updated successfully. I'm also going to turn on Network Manager, because if I don't do that, we're not going to have internet access when we restart the machine. So first we need to install the Network Manager. So it's going to be pacman -S Network Manager. Got 19 dependencies, so we're going to go ahead and install that. Okay. We're going to enable the systemd service for Network Manager. So it's systemctl enable Network Manager. And that was created successfully. So now we need to install grub, which is going to be used for our boot manager. So we need to install the grub packages and its dependencies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in pacman -S. We want grub, and we need the UEFI boot manager, DOS FS tools, OS prober, M tools, and that's it. I'm going to proceed with the installation. Installation was complete. Next, we need to set our locale. To do this, the command is a couple things that you can do to do this. So, one of them, the easy way would just be to type in vim space dash Etsy / local.gen, and then you'll see that all these locales in here are commented out. Basically, find the one that you need. Since I'm in the United States, I'm actually going to do en underscore us underscore en us utf minus 8 utf minus 8. See how it's currently commented out? You can press I, delete the hashtag, press escape, do colon W, U to save and quit. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you the other method. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to go back into this file and show you that nothing has been set in this file. So this line that I want is currently commented out. I'm actually going to quit out of here. So to do this the other way, which is kind of the longer way, we're going to type in sed -I, and we're going to do a single quote, s \hashtag en underscore us dot utf. And make sure you're doing this case sensitive. en underscore us dot utf minus 8 /d and close out the single quote. So let me make sure I type this in correctly. Hashtag en underscore us dot utf minus 8 / lowercase en underscore capital US dot capital UTF minus 8 /g. Okay. And we closed out the single quotes. And then we're going to do /etsy /locale.gen. Basically, it's just going to find this line and it's going to remove the hashtag from this line in that file that we were previously in. To validate, let's go back into, let's vim back into etsy /locale.gen. You can use Nano for this as well. So whatever editor you're using. You can see that this file is uncommented. So we are now done with that step. We're going to type in locale-gen, generating based on the one that we chose, and that's done. We're going to do vim space -etsy /locale.conf for config, and then we're going to press I to get into insert mode, and then we're going to set our language. So all capitals there, equals underscore en underscore capital US dot capital UTF minus 8. Press escape to get into normal mode, colon W to write, Q to quit. Make sure there is no spelling errors, and everything looks exactly like that. We're done there. Now, to get over to the grub stuff, because remember we did the Hackman to install all of our grub and our grub dependencies for a boot manager. We need to make our EFI directory. So we're going to do mkdir to make our directory /boot/EFI. And this is all case sensitive. So do capital EFI. If you don't do that, you're going to run into errors later on. So now we're going to mount /dev/sda1. Remember that was our partition for our EFI system. To space /boot/capital EFI. We're going to install grub using EFI mode, and that is going to be grub-install space -- target equals x86 underscore 64 -EFI space -- bootloader -ID equals grub underscore UEFI space -- recheck. And just take a moment to make sure you typed everything in correctly. That looks good. Installation finished. We'll set up our locale for grub. So we'll do cp for copy user / share / locale / en / @UUOT / all caps LC _ messages / grub.mo space dash boot / grub / locale / en.mo. We're going to write our grub config. So we'll do grub.mk config -o /boot / grub / grub.cfg. And that completed successfully. So we're pretty much done at this point. So we're going to exit out of our installed system. So we're back now at the Arch installation. And we're basically going to unmount everything before we restart. So it's umount /R / mnt. And then we're going to do a reboot. Here's our grub bootloader. So that looks good. So we're at the Zeus login prompt. So let's log in with our root user and the password that we set. And here we go. So now at this point, some of the first steps that you're probably going to want to do is create like a standard user account and not use the root account for everything. So we'll do that together real quick. So we'll do user add -m to create our home directory, and I'm going to call my account Jason. So my account that's called Jason has been created. We'll set a password for the Jason account. So we'll do pass WD, and we need to choose the account that we want to set the password for. And that's been done. Now you're probably going to end up wanting to add this account to your sudoers file so that you can do super user and install different packages and stuff using your standard user account. So we're going to do user mod -a capital G, and we're going to add this user to the wheel account, video account, our video group, audio group, storage. No spaces between the commas in the group names. And then once we're done typing in our groups, we're going to do space dash the user we want to add. That's been done. Next, we want to we need to update our sudoers file so that we can run super user things. Vim space dash etsy / sudoers. And remember, we just got done adding our account to the wheel account. So if we go down to the bottom of this file, you'll see this line that says uncomment to allow members of group wheel to execute any command. You still have to use sudo space the command that you want to run, but this will allow us for our account we just created to do that. So press I to go into insert mode and just remove the comment space in front of this line, and then you'll be fine. Now, the line below this says same thing without a password. On my test machines that I really don't care about, what I will do is I'll actually uncomment this line that says no password, just so I don't get prompted for a password when I do my sudo space name of the command that I want to run. But that's completely up to you. Obviously, there's security things to consider when you set a sudo space user to be executed without a password. So that's totally up to you. I'll do the more secure route, and I'll just leave it how it is. So to save this file, it is :W Q, and we need to put an exclamation point in here. Well, so right quit exclamation point is kind of it's a force because this is a system file, and that's now been done. So I don't know, let's reboot one more time, make sure everything looks good. We'll get back to the login screen, and we're gonna try log in with the account we just created. So type in Jason, password I set for this account, and there we go. So now let's test out sudo. We'll do sudo pacman --S, and I don't know, we'll install like xorg, and it'll prompt me for my password. I'm going to say that there's 48 packages or dependencies for xorg. I'm going to press enter, proceed with the install. But this is just to show you that we can now do sudo type actions because of those settings that we just set. So at this point, we're done with the Arch Linux install. We set up a user account. We set up xorg, which is a Windows server. If you want to branch out and install GNOME or KDE or Xmonad, any sort of desktop environment, window manager that you want to use, it's traditionally the next steps that you'll want to take here. So other than that, we installed Arch Linux on a UEFI system, and that's it. So